February 8th, 2025, join middle to high school youth from across the diocese for a special youth rally called The Path That Leads to You, featuring America's youngest bishop, national youth speaker, and rapper Bishop Joseph Espaillat. The youth rally is run by the Diocesan Youth Ambassadors, a group of high school youth from across the diocese who have been working together for nearly a year to put the creative event together. It will feature exciting games, live music, talks, and Eucharistic adoration. The February 8th event will take place at Pope Francis Prep High School in Springfield from 5:30 to 9 p.m. New this year, a special fun zone will open at 4 p.m. with games and concessions. For more information or to register, go to westernmasscatholic.org/youth-rally.
Hey, let's go!
You're invited!
Coming up on this edition of Reel to Reel, Carolee McGrath sits down with Bishop William Byrne, the new chair of the U.S. Bishops' Committee on Communication, to talk about his goals and why media is an important part of evangelization.
How children process their grief through art. I'm Kathy Harrington, and I'll bring you the story.
And Dan Dumas has the latest news briefs from the Diocese of Springfield. It's all just ahead on this edition of Reel to Reel. Hello and welcome to Reel to Reel. During the recent meeting of the bishops of the United States, our own Bishop William Byrne began his duties as the chair of the Communications Committee for the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops. Earlier this week, Carolee McGrath spoke with the bishop about his goals and why media is an important part of evangelization.
Thank you for joining us today. And you are also the communication chair for the USCCB.
As of the last day of the last meeting that we had in Baltimore. So yes, I am. I got another job.
So tell me a little bit about that job and your priorities for that job. This is definitely up your alley. This is your forte. But coming into this position, what do you envision?
So first of all, I follow in the footsteps of Bishop Robert Reed.
We know him.
Everyone knows him and loves him to death. He is, he did a great job. So there's the different committees that oversee different functions of the conference. So there's one on migration, there's one on pro-life, and then the communications efforts of the conference. And I think one of the things that we are discovering is that in order to reach a younger generation, we have to go to the place where they are, and that's typically social media. The goal is never to keep people on social media, to reach them so that they can get off of social media and go start living life. One of the principal ways of doing that is to make our parishes places where people want to come, to make our schools places where kids relate and encounter. Our Holy Father, Pope Francis, is continually talking about encounter. And we have to go out and encounter people. And why a mediated encounter through social media is an encounter, it's not what we really are talking about. Face to face, friend to friend, walking with each other. But it's a chance for us to present the teachings of the church, so misunderstood, especially by young people, young adults, and hopefully be able to reach them where they are.
And this is definitely your forte, I would say. I mean, you've done this for a while. Before becoming Bishop of the Diocese of Springfield, you wrote the book 5 Things. You had your own YouTube series on that. And then in your role as bishop, you've continued that presence on social media. And I think a lot of young people have appreciated it. You're on Instagram and you're doing different videos with the saints. What's the feedback that you hear from people when you're out and about in the diocese?
Well, I think the best feedback that you can get is when you go to a youth event and they're like, oh, Bishop Byrne, let's do a selfie so we can get on your Instagram. And then you say, I've made it, I'm reaching that demographic, which is really the demographic. They're not just the future of the church, they're the present of the church. They especially love it if my dog Zelly is in the post.
And I must say, she has her own Instagram account.
She does.
And she's pretty popular.
Right.
Yes. So obviously, evangelization has to be top priority for the church. I'm not speaking for you, but I guess as a Catholic mom of 5, I would say that that's pretty clear. How does social media help in that effort to spread that message?
Well, and there's a couple things. One of the ways to do that is to help rebrand. I joke about my dog, but that's part of a rebranding of what people's image of the church, which is often very serious or somehow angry with people, but to let them know that this is the celebration of God's love and joy, and that it goes from across the church all the way from the bishop to everyone else. And so that's one of it, but it's also ways of getting information to people in small, bite size. No one's going to go and read a 45-page document, a PDF online, but they will hear a point and say, oh, I need to think about the dignity of the human person, to realize that everybody that I meet actually does have dignity because they've been created in the image and likeness of God.
And I also think the other parts that you had mentioned, talking about the dignity of life. So my job, and I'm grateful for it, in the diocese is to promote what's going on in the diocese. So I've seen some different, growth in that area, being an old news gal and now seeing how social media is being used to evangelize. And it's very hard to keep up with you because you're everywhere. So I'm constantly chasing you and putting you up. But I'm even noticing different generations liking and being excited about some of the things that are happening, whether it's a pro-life mass or it's a Eucharistic procession or you being at the Eucharistic Congress in Indianapolis. I mean, that got a lot of hits, I must say.
But I have to say, when we're doing the Rosary just down the road from here, Planned Parenthood, and I'm surrounded by kids from Pope Francis Prep, my heart fills with joy. They're helping lead the Rosary, taking leadership, but also standing up for life. What's a more credible witness than a 17-year-old who's speaking to the culture that says, oh, don't listen to them, when they say, I listen, and I'm putting my voice in for the unborn and for those who have no voice.
And I think it encourages people out there who are scrolling. We're starting to see so much more, because as you say, we're flooding Instagram with Jesus, with the good news, right? Jesus doesn't need an advertising agency,
right.
But it sure is fun to roll him out there. And it's starting to catch on, I'm finding.
Yeah, that's just it. I mean, I think people have been told so long, that's a private thing, keep that quiet if you're going to do that, or even if you do that, you're strange somehow. And then when suddenly we wake up and we're like, you believe also?
Right.
Well, let's get our voices together and make a joyful noise for the Lord and let people know. And that's what's so fun and exciting when you see just that.
All right, Bishop Byrne, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for all you're doing. We're going to look forward to some more of your little Instagram hits as well.
Thanks, Caroline.
And most especially from Zelly.
From Zelly.
From Zelly.
Thank you. God bless.
Of course, you can follow Bishop Byrne and Zelly on Instagram. The bishop often posts short reflections that inspire people to spread the good news far and wide. Now we turn our attention to a difficult issue. Children who have experienced the death of a sibling, parent, or even a classmate may not have the words to express their feelings. Rick's Place in Wilbraham helps these children and teens, as well as the adults who care for them, with support during their grief journey. November is Children's Grief Awareness Month, and recently a show of art created by grieving children and their parents debuted at Springfield College. Kathy Harrington toured the exhibit and has our story.
Oftentimes there aren't words that people can put to their loss.
This is the second year for Rick's Place Art Exhibit.
Last year was our first exhibit, and we did it on-site at Rick's Place, but we had such a wonderful turnout and there was so much interest, we just knew we had to expand and make it bigger.
And a bigger crowd for opening night at Springfield College. The Colors of Grief art exhibit filling 2 gallery rooms.
And in honor of November's Children's Grief Awareness Month, we thought this would be a great opportunity to give voice to children, teens, and families who have been grieving.
At Rick's Place, grieving children can find support among others their age. The artwork gives them a chance to truly express their feelings. This tree is made up of tears. The 10-year-old artist says the small heart survives among the tears. Grief monsters cover one wall. Colorful, chaotic, even frightening, the sorrow they convey can be overwhelming and unexpected. A wall of face masks, some representing the person who's died, others reveal the hidden emotions of the grief-stricken. The exhibit also includes an open installation for contributions from the community.
Many of our families tonight have brought photographs, and there's also a space where you can write a message or a note to the person who's died.
Founded in 2007 in memory of Wilbraham native Rick Thorpe, who died in the September 11th World Trade Center attacks, the nonprofit offers children, teens, and their families grief support, and not only at Rick's Place, but also in partnership with schools throughout Western Massachusetts.
We strive to help families figure out who they're going to be as a new family after a death has happened, and that's really challenging.
Andrew and Gemma Thompson found Rick's Place after the death of their 8-year-old son, Kenji. Born with special needs, a genetic disorder called Edwards syndrome for which there is no cure. Doctors offered the new parents hospice or palliative care. Only 10% of Edwards syndrome babies live beyond 12 months.
We want to proceed with palliative care, just give him the best life we could, while he blessed us with his presence. So,
he's a bright light,
yeah.
Very, very bright light.
Remembered as a happy kid with great energy who gave phenomenal hugs, Kenji was popular at school, in the hospital, and around town. His best friend, his little brother Lawrence.
We were looking for any type of support that was available to help us work through that, especially concerning our child Lawrence, who was a year younger than his brother.
Artwork by Gemma, Andrew, and Lawrence, included in the exhibit, bears their grief.
I think it's just wonderful that they all were interested in expressing their own unique relationship and process to grief, even though they're all grieving the same person. And that just shows how unique grief is.
Andrew says the art is a healthy way to help him breathe. And for Lawrence,
it's kind of an important time in his life to be able to process and work through those emotions so he can hopefully be a healthy adult later on in life.
Westfield State University grad student Shannon O'Brien lost a parent at age 15. Her experience with a grief group then didn't make a connection. During an undergraduate internship at Rick's Place, she fell in love with the support they offer children.
Being able to do the work for Rick's Place, I kind of get to give the kids that I work with the experience that I didn't get.
It's been 3 years since her internship, and O'Brien now serves as a volunteer while studying to become a licensed mental health counselor. The children she works with are as young as 5 years old.
It can be really challenging to grasp the concept of a death. So that's one of the first places we start, is just working with them to explain what death means, the permanence of death, what that means for their life moving forward, the changes that happen after losing a loved one. And I think that that definitely comes out in the art that they do.
Hope, love, memory, courage. The painting of a 13-year-old. Talia Mark says it represents the rooms at Rick's Place, and what connects them as a community is their grief. I'm Kathy Harrington for Reel to Reel.
And Kathy tells us that the exhibit moved to the Agawam Public Library through the end of this month. And for more on Rick's Place and information on upcoming exhibits through February, we have a link at iobserve.org. And still to come on Reel to Reel, Dan Dumas will share some news briefs from throughout Western Massachusetts. And Carolee McGrath returns with a preview of an upcoming pro-life film examining what choice means for women. It's all still to come on Reel to Reel.
Like Catholic TV on Facebook. Once you're there, you can join in on discussions, make friends with other Catholic TV fans, watch behind-the-scenes videos from the studio, and stay up to date with the Catholic world. All this at facebook.com/CatholicTV.
I'm Dan Dumas with your Reel to Reel news briefs. On a recent Sunday afternoon, a few dozen people marched through Springfield's North End to take a prayerful stance against violence in the city. About 24 people turned out for the Walk for Nonviolence on a recent Sunday at Blessed Sacrament Parish in Springfield. The march began on Waverly Street and wound through the North End neighborhood. The march was organized by Greater Springfield Campaign Nonviolence.
We do this walk in this neighborhood every year, and the point of it is to gather and to recognize and bring our awareness again to the victims of violence that have occurred this year in this neighborhood. And it's an event for us to do just that, to walk together in peace, to understand that we have to keep the sadness, unfortunately, with us, and to honor the victims, maybe by what we think we can do in the future to try to, reduce the violence.
Atilio Alvarado Ocasio, a longtime member of Blessed Sacrament Parish, has 3 adult children. He says he wants to ensure that all children have a safe place to live and play.
We're going to go back to the basic principle that Lord Jesus Christ taught us, to love God, to love one another, and that is what we need to have as a community, to love one another, to support one another, to have empathy in one another, and to support one another, and to never forget that we cannot give up. We got to keep trying, we got to keep praying.
Organizers would like to see more city and state resources allocated to address the underlying issues of violence in the city and beyond. The former downtown Springfield Catholic Spiritual Center, St. Francis Chapel, has been sold to a local business interest. On October 31st, the Diocese of Springfield closed on a $300,000 sale to Hammond Business Center, LLC. Hammond operates V-Care Adult Daycare Services, which currently operates facilities in Holyoke and Chicopee. The chapel, built in 1959, for years provided daily liturgies and spiritual counseling. It also hosted the popular First Friday breakfasts. But in May of 2020, citing a decline in mass attendance and financial concerns, the diocese closed the chapel for good, placing it on the market for sale. Work is already underway at the Bridge Street building. 5 men in the Diocese of Springfield's Diaconate Formation Program became candidates during a special Mass held Saturday, October 26th at St. Michael's Cathedral in Springfield. David Martin attended and has more.
Springfield Bishop William Byrne was the principal celebrant for the rite of admission to candidacy for Holy Orders. This is the second major step for the diaconate class of 2027. The men are now entering the 3rd year of formation. The rite publicly acknowledges their readiness and commitment to be called forward to Holy Orders. The candidates are Michael Blewett from Saints Patrick and Raphael Parish in Williamstown, Patrick Dubois from St. Cecilia Parish in Wilbraham, Jason Samaski from Blessed Trinity Parish in Greenfield, Michael Latender from All Saints Parish in Ware, and Joseph Foreski from St. Mary of the Assumption Parish in Chesser.
The Word of God is, people are hungry for it right now. So when we offer it, they show up. They come and they're looking for more. So it means a lot to take the next step. But again, I just remain humble and continue to answer the call.
The candidates have been taking courses in Catholic social teaching, pastoral care, homiletics, leadership, and liturgical practices. The 5 men were called to the altar for the rite of admission. Next was the examination of the candidates, followed by the acceptance.
After I retired, I really felt that it was a time to give back, not only to the church, but also to all the community and all my family, and especially Jesus, who had helped me throughout my life to go through and to become a child of God.
Deacons play an important role in the church as part of the ordained ministry. They assist during Mass, preach, and can proclaim the gospel. They are also ordinary ministers of the sacrament of baptism. After Mass, a reception took place in the Bishop Marshall Center. In Springfield, I'm David Martin.
And finally, the chilly temperatures did not deter the kids from Blessed Sacrament School in Holyoke from walking lap after lap on a recent school day to raise money for victims of the hurricanes in the southeast. Carolee McGrath caught up to them at their walkathon.
Everyone's ready? Yeah! We'll begin with a prayer, the one that you all know, right? In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Our Father.
On a chilly November morning, students of Blessed Sacrament School in Holyoke started with prayer to kick off their walkathon to raise money for victims of Hurricane Helene in Milton. They walked lap after lap in the parking lot, cheered on by the Holyoke Fire Department, Police Department, and Boomer from the Thunderbirds.
Are you proud of these kids?
I'm so proud of my students. They are so excited and they're so ready to support this cause and just get involved and, like I said, put our mission in motion.
The walkathon was organized by the school student council. Sixth grader William Rivest is the president.
I've heard a lot of stories that Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton was a very big deal, and it injured a lot of people, and people had to evacuate immediately. We're gonna be out here for about a half hour, and they're gonna walk as many laps as they can.
Okay, it's a little cold out here. Is it worth it though?
Oh yeah, definitely. We can sacrifice for their sacrifices.
Students raised $4,000 to benefit both the American Red Cross and Catholic Relief Services. Both organizations are providing relief to people in affected areas.
So we like to provide service, and we thought that this would be something that would be wonderful to do our part to help out people that are in need.
Polish National Credit Union provided water, snacks, and string bags for students. In Holyoke, I'm Carolee McGrath.
You can read more on these and other stories at iobserve.org, where you can find articles from our Catholic communication staff, as well as on-demand episodes of Real to Real. That's iobserve.org. I'm Dan Dumas, and those were your Real to Real news briefs.
Finally today, segments of a new film called Choice were shown at a pre-screening event at Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament Parish in Westfield recently. The film is meant to examine the reality of what choice means for women and includes varied opinions and perspectives in an effort to change hearts and minds. Carolee McGrath was there and has more.
The decision is out. It's been issued by Justice Alito, and Roe v. Wade has been overturned.
It's a film that examines the most controversial issue in the country and frankly around the world. A film about choice and what that really means.
My heart and my head need to separate.
I couldn't believe that I was pregnant.
I felt just petrified.
More than 50 people gathered at Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament Parish in Westfield for a pre-screening of Choice. The film's director, Mario Costabile, the founder of Array of Hope Ministries, documents the stories of women facing an unplanned pregnancy, their reasons for choosing life or abortion, and what happens next in their lives.
Choice was really inspired with the idea of trying to draw people into a space that can share the truths of issues of life, but to invoke people that might even think differently than we do.
In one segment of the film, viewers heard from women who worked in abortion clinics. One woman described in detail her job in assisting in late-term abortions. The information was jarring, but certainly showed the reality of choice.
There are really important issues of life that people are unaware of, that are unaccustomed to sharing and are opposed to the way we think. So the film is really designed to be a film that is multi-generational, multi-issue based, and also enabled to bring people that think differently than we do. It's sort of a very unique approach. The desire is to bring people to a place that can share thought, ideas, but then, as we know, the truth prevails and is revealed in a beautiful, beautiful way.
Martha Byrne is the co-producer.
I felt like we didn't tell enough of the women's personal stories. There was a lot of yelling, a lot of telling, but not a lot of listening. So I thought this was such a beautiful opportunity to be able to get out to the world.
Both Mario and Martha had successful careers in the entertainment industry, but they say they're honored now to be able to glorify God with their gifts and talents and to speak His truth. Costabile, who spent 40 years in the entertainment industry, is an award-winning music and film producer. He's done work for MTV, VH1, the Discovery Channel, and Atlantic Records.
Actually, I'm a revert. Born and raised Catholic, but not really practicing. And it wasn't until my 50s when I was searching for purpose, meaning, I said, is that all this is? I felt somewhat empty and a void. I was happily married, great family, but felt that there was something missing. And as I started to search for what that was, I realized it was God. And since I was a Catholic, I was really poorly catechized, really did not know much about my faith. And I said, if God's really real, I need to know Him better.
Actress Martha Byrne played the role of Lily on As the World Turns and has spent her entire career in television.
I started on Broadway when I was a child actor and always been pro-life, went to Catholic high school. My mother taught in Catholic school, my father, was a big part of my life growing up. And being in the entertainment business, being pro-life back in the early days wasn't such a big deal. Now it is today. Obviously speaking out, and I do publicly, it's always been close to my heart. I had a very dear friend of mine who got pregnant in high school, and I talked her out of an abortion, and she had the baby, gave the baby up for adoption, and actually met her daughter a few years ago. And so it's in my DNA, literally, now of my life.
When we consider the issue of reproductive justice, we have to think about who is really fighting for justice.
The film is being released by TLS Films, a nonprofit. So far, Costabile has raised $1 million to produce Choice, but needs to raise an additional $300,000 to complete the project.
It's been in development for 7 years, and we've raised quite a bit of money. We're a nonprofit entity, so all the donations are tax deductible. But that's the plan. We're sort of like, using a baseball analogy, we're in the top of the eighth.
Both Costabile and Byrne have been public about their pro-life stance, but it's not always easy.
I'm not afraid to speak and take on the heat, because I feel like, as we know in our Catholic faith, that suffering is part of our journey. And I don't see it as suffering, I see it as challenge. So I feel like God gives you this opportunity and kind of sees what you're going to do with it, right? He puts it on your plate, but then what do you do with the plate that He gives you? You can be self-satisfied and get a message out of it, or you can spread the message to millions of people. And I'm very blessed that I'll be able to do that.
Costabile and Byrne have been doing presentations on the film across the country and recently appeared on Catholic TV.
I'm so happy that our pro-life community came together to support this film and this producer who's really trying to help highlight the idea of choice and that choices have consequences.
To learn more, go to choicethedocumentary.com. Reporting for Reel to Reel in Westfield, I'm Carolee McGrath.
In addition to Costabile and Byrne, several others on the production team of Choice have backgrounds in the industry, producing films and projects for Netflix, HBO, Amazon, and CBS. It will be a film you won't want to miss once it's released. And for this week, that's Reel to Reel. Be sure to follow the latest news of the Catholic Church, both here in Western Massachusetts and around the world, on our news and information website, iobserve.org. There you will find articles prepared by our Catholic Communications reporting team and our partners at Our Sunday Visitor. That's iobserve.org, and we are also on Facebook, so follow us there at Catholic Communications. I will see you right back here at this same time next week for another edition of Reel to Reel, your window on the world around you. Enjoy your week and happy Thanksgiving.
Reel to Reel is a production of the Catholic Communications Corporation, funded in part by the annual Catholic Appeal. and the support of you, our faithful viewers.